What's up guys, it's Yugi Bros, and today I wanted to give you guys what my top picks for the next Speed Duel Tournament pack are. Now I know there's no announcement yet for something like that, and as of late we've gotten info about a Speed Duel box with potential 7 reprints and maybe some other reprints with the secret rares. It's not really clear whether the secret rares are just going to be more new cards or more reprints for Speed Duels. But I was going to do this video about a week ago, but it got delayed, and then the Speed Duel announcement for the box set came out, so I figured let's pump the brakes on that for a second. So there could be a potential that some of these choices that I'm going to suggest might be reprinted in that as common, or reprinted in that as secret rares, if the secret rares do in fact happen to be reprints. I don't know, I guess we'll find out. And I do want to preface this video with 3 cards real quick that I would love to include in this set as potential super rare reprints, so they're not like super expensive, and that would be Night Beam, Parasite Paranoid, and Floodgate Trap Hole. All 3 of these cards, to me, fill the category of they need reprints to make them easier to get, easier accessibility, because they are all about $15 to $20 a piece right now. And even though they've usually held off on doing that for the tournament packs and left the reprints to the starter decks, we've only had 2 tournament packs, so we really can't decipher whether or not they would ever reprint stuff in the tournament packs to give it like an easier accessibility. If that was the case, all 3 of these in my vote would be for the super rare spot, because they are all really good, but they don't need ultra rare prints. They already are all ultra rare, but also like if they were ultra rare again in a tournament pack, they would just be really hard to obtain. They need easier accessibility in Speed Duels, but we're going to assume that these aren't going to be in the pack, frankly just because they haven't done that yet. When it comes to tournament packs, they haven't given us stuff to reprint to make easier. They've, like I've said, they've saved them for the decks, so we're going to assume that these 3 are outside the realm of possibility of reprint, and I'm going to go from there. So, starting off with the 12 super rares, these are my picks. I understand that not everyone's opinions will be the same. This is a conversation, like I've said in the past. You can agree to disagree. That is the fun about this. Most of these I've chosen off the top to kind of like, most of the super rares anyway are like competitive. Some are character based, but most of them are competitive. The ultra rares, as we've seen in the last 2 tournament packs, have been strictly character based for the most part. So my 6 ultra rares, actually 5 of my 6 ultra rares are character related, and I'm sure they'll be ultra rare because they're character related. One of them is kind of a pick on my part, and I'll explain that when I get to it. So, but starting with the super rares, we have Gap the Defiant Soldier. Now, this card's seen a lot of competitive play as of recently. It's teched a lot in Dark Moth, whether it be in the main or the side deck. This card is very strong, a very strong option indeed. It's a dark level 6 Fiend effect, 2200 attack, 2000 defense. Its effect is all monsters are changed to face-up attack position. Also, their battle positions cannot be changed, and flip effects are not activated at this time. That effect by itself is the reason this card gets played. It makes a lot of decks that, you know, are going to kind of go on the defensive stuff all of a sudden have to be offensive. They can't change the battle positions of anything on the field, so it leaves them stuck in attack mode. And anything that does flip, like Man-Eater Bug or Dekoichi or something like that, will not activate, so they won't get their extra little flip effects, which is nice. In addition, if you're playing this in like a Fiend type deck, once per turn you can reveal any number of Fiend type monsters in your hand, and this card gains 300 attack for each until the end phase. So this card can get bigger from its initial 2200 if you want to kind of swing in for maximum damage type thing. Typically, if you are playing it in a Fiend deck, it kind of goes up to 25 with 1 Fiend, 28 with 2. More or less, it doesn't really hit beyond that, but for 1 tribute, that is really strong. We don't even have Summon Skull in this game yet, which is a 25 1 tribute, so it does get over a lot of 1 tribute monsters or anything of the lesser. So that is my first pick for the super rares. My next pick is a bit of a blast from the past, Gravekeepers Recruiter. Dark level 3, Spellcaster 1215. When this card you control is sent to the grave, add a Gravekeeper monster with 1500 or less defense from your deck to your hand. Gravekeepers has been at the forefront of this game since the very beginning. Yes, it's not nearly as good as it used to be, however, it's still a competitive deck, and if played correctly, can get you to the top, if not winning a tournament or two. This deck is still very good. Recruiter is the search card for the deck, and if you're playing some knockoff brand like Burn with Curse, you can search Curse with this card in said deck. This also only has one foil printing in real life, in real Yu-Gi-Oh!, and that is an ultra rare, as you can see from this image from a Legendary Collection Yu-Gi. If you give it a super rare, that gives it a little bit of an easier accessibility for players outside of Speed Duels to get their hands on another foil version of Recruiter, and I think this card would be really fun just in general as a super rare. It's not that I'm trying to make every foil in this relevant in real Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't think Gap's going to be really good in a real Yu-Gi-Oh! But Recruiter here, for example, I just think would benefit strongly from the super rare. It's definitely deserved it. I actually thought it was going to be in the first or the second Speed Duel tournament pack, but it never got it. So I think it's a long time coming. This is the only like old of the Speed Duel cards on this list. But I think, you know, Konami should at least look back on the older Speed Duel cards when calculating what's going to be foil for each tournament pack. So that's why this is my number 2 on my list. And keep in mind, these 12 are not in any order. These are just my thoughts on the super rares. My number 3 is none other than Blast Sphere. Now, I know this card saw more play last format with Burn. Sees a little less play now, but it is a Dark Machine, can be played in Heavy Metal Raider decks, and also gets sided in a lot of other decks as well. It's a nice tech card if you play defenses normally in a lot of your Speed Duel decks and you side this in. A lot of people don't expect to see it, and it can definitely turn into quite the shocking burn of a card in Speed Duels. Dark level 4 Machine 1414. Before damage calculation, if this face down defense position card was attacked by an opponent's monster, equip this card to the attacking monster. Then, during your opponent's next standby phase, destroy that monster this card is equipped to, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the destroyed monster's attack on the field. That's really strong in 4000 Yu-Gi-Oh! There is a lot of ways to abuse this card. Also, what's being played a lot right now is Twister and Wild Tornado and Dust Tornado to get rid of Zoma the Spirit and Night Beam. But when you have this, sometimes if they hit those cards, then this thing is going to resolve, or this makes them have to pop those cards, so that trap that you have isn't going to get destroyed quite as easily. It's a really good tech, in my opinion. Definitely deserves the super rare slot for sure in this game. I thought it deserved it in the last tournament pack, so I feel like this was a bit overdue, but that is why Blast Sphere holds my number 3 spot in my super rare list. My number 4 is Gentlemander. Now, this is another card from a deck that I think needs a foil version. This card's just really cool how it plays. It's a light level 4 reptile, 1200 attack, 1000 defense, that says when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can special summon this card from your hand. Your opponent cannot attack any monsters except this one. So it almost redirects attacks. And if you put 2 on the field, it locks your opponent from attacking because you can't attack this one if you have another on the field, and that one says you can't attack that one if you have this on the field. It kind of works in the same way Command Knight does. So it creates a bit of a lock. This was heavily played when Serpent Knight Dragon and Nightmare Sonic Blast was a deck, but more so, this card could still just be used in anything as a bit of a wall. It's a nice little hand trap. I like that Speed Duels has hand traps that aren't insane like Ash Blossom or Effect Veiler, as of yet anyways. Instead it has more battle tricks like Sphere Karibo and Gentlemander. So I think Gentlemander kind of deserves it. Sphere Karibo has been a foil for a long time, and yes, this is, I would say, inferior Sphere Karibo because they still get to attack and this will most likely die, but it does redirect attacks still, and this card is still really strong if played correctly in the right decks. So I definitely would give this a super rare reprint. I think this is a little overdue as well. I think this would be really cool as a foil. My number 5 is a card that does something similar, and that is Command Knight. Fire, level 4 warrior, 1200 attack, 1900 defense. All warrior monsters you control gain 400 attack. That by itself is really solid in anything like Blade Turbo and something like that. If you control another monster, just any other monster, monsters your opponent controls cannot target this card for attacks. So similar to Gentlemander, if you have 2 of these on the field, you've produced a lock where your opponent cannot attack you. But this card is stronger in my opinion in the sense that 1900 defense is already really strong, but it'll be 1600 attack based off of its effect. But it gives all your other warrior monsters 400 as well. So Blade Knight becomes 2000 or 24 if you have 1 or less cards in hand. Charging Gaia, for example, if it gets summoned through its normal summon ability, would be 19 plus this is back to its original 23. That is just really strong. In anything, and warriors have always been focused on big attack and beating face. So this card definitely buffs the deck very powerfully. This card is really underrated. I thought when this was originally confirmed it was going to be a ultra rare for sure in one of the main sets, but if not that, then definitely a super. And it came out as a common, which I think not just to me but to a lot of people was very jaw-dropping. It definitely deserved to be a higher rarity than that. So I would give it a super rare reprint here. I feel like it arguably could deserve an ultra rare printing, but like I said, they usually save that for character card type things. So I would put this as a super rare in this set for sure. Very strong card. Warrior decks everywhere would rejoice in terms of speed duels, or regular Yu-Gi-Oh as well. Another foil version of Command Knights, always fun to play. So definitely worth the spot for sure. My next pick is a bit of a dark horse, and that is Toon Gemini Elf. Not that this deck is competitive, because it's not, and Toons haven't really been competitive ever. This card, I feel, deserves the super rare slot compared to any other Toon card that we currently have, just based solely on the fact that it's 1900. It is the first 1900 that we can summon without much downside outside of charging Gaia the Fierce Knight. You just can't attack with this the turn it's summoned, but it's Toons, so that's like the whole theme in general. This is more of a character pick than a competitive pick, but I think Toons deserve a foil, and unfortunately up to this point I don't think any other card deserves it more than Toon Gemini Elf. Being 1900, I'll explain the effect real quick for people that don't know about Toons. It's an Earth level 4 spellcaster Toon monster with 1900 attack and 900 defense. This card cannot attack the turn it is summoned. If Toon World on the field is destroyed, destroy this card. That's another downside it has. While you control Toon World and your opponent does not control a Toon monster, this card can attack your opponent directly, so that's an upside. When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, discard 1 random card from your opponent's hand. 2 very powerful effects, obviously one of which is the generic Toon thing. If you have Toon World, you can swing for 19, but again, 4000 Yu-Gi-Oh! 19 is essentially half the life. And then the second effect, to discard a random card from your opponent's hand, is definitely nothing to sneeze at. That effect is really strong and can be very powerful for sure. So I think Toon Gemini Elf definitely deserves the spot if we're going to give a Toon card a foil in this set. But also, having a super rare version of Toon Gemini Elf in real Yu-Gi-Oh! Would be a nice aesthetic, considering the only foil version of this card was a Duelist League promo. It was also a super rare, but this card hasn't had problem solving card text as a foil yet, so definitely something that I think collectors would be all for if this got a reprint as well. This next one definitely deserves an ultra rare printing, but I'll explain why I didn't put it in the ultra rare section, and that is Charging Gaia the Fierce Knight. When they announced this for Speed Duels, I was awestruck. Honestly, I didn't expect the first 1900 beat stick that we get as a normal summonable monster to be something like this. And I feel like they also threw this in because of the ritual synergy that it has. But I mean, I didn't expect a 1900 normal summon for a while that didn't have like a downside like Gemini Elf does. This is something that caught a lot of players off balance when they first announced it. It's a level 7 light warrior, 2321 defense, but don't let that fool you. Yes, it can be 2 tributes, but instead you can normal summon it by the following. Its effect is you can normal summon this card without tributing. If this card is normal summoned without tributing, its original attack becomes 1900. That's still ridiculous. We barely had any 1800s before these decks came out. We had exclusively, I think, Gearfried the Iron Knight, and maybe one other card. After this, we got Gilgarth, which is 18, Zoma The Spirit, which is an 18 trap, but it comes out in defense of 500. Like, I expected something like Vorse Raider, because it's a Kaiba card, or Gemini Elf, like regular Gemini Elf, to be the first 1900 monsters. And we got Charging Gaia. So in addition to normal summoning this with no downside and keeping its 2100 defense, it also, if tributed, you can add one Blackluster Soldier monster. So that's not just the ritual, like any Blackluster Soldier monster if they throw more into this game in the future, from your deck to your hand. Okay, that's really good. I don't think we'll ever get Envoy at the beginning, but you could search that in theory with this card. You can only use that effect once per turn. Fine. They threw this in because Blackluster Soldier is in this deck as well. So, you know, you can use the synergy there and then get your ritual monster. But this card is a powerhouse, guys. Like I said, if you pair this up against Command Knight, it goes back to its original 2300 if you normal summoned it through its effect. If you didn't and normal summoned it the old-fashioned way, it's 2700. If you put this is instantly a staple 3 of in any warrior deck, as of right now anyway, just as a clear beat stick to anything else. Blade Knight, you have to have one or less cards in hand to put him at 2000. Charging Gaia comes out at 19, 100 less than that by himself with no downside. That seems really good. This card definitely deserves the ultra rare spot, but I'll explain why I don't have it there. I feel like each character gets one slot in the ultra position when they do the ultra spots, so I'll explain what my ultra is when we get to that point, but this card clearly deserves it. Like, this card is amazing, so that's why it'd be in my super rare slot. Yeah, there's nothing more to say. This card's fantastic. So that rounds out my effect monsters. Next to spells, we have Heatwave. This card has been at the precipice of being relevant randomly in Yu-Gi-Oh! Throughout its history since its original release in Star Strike Blast. This card's been out for almost 10 years now, and it never had a reprint until this Speed Duel reprint. And honestly, for a little while, a few months ago, this Speed Duel reprint was $5, and you could buy the decks on TCG for about $5. So this card literally made your money back in just in all the Speed Duel decks alone. This card goes in and out of play. In Speed Duels, it has a special spot in any normal monster deck, or decks that set a lot of monsters a lot of the time, because you can still set effect monsters under this card. For the people that don't know, it's a normal spell that says at the start of your main phase, neither player can normal or special summon effect monsters until your next draw phase. This is really strong. You activate this and your opponent's locked to only setting effect monsters for the following turn. If they're playing normal monsters, obviously that gets around this. But this card is very, very powerful. And I think a foil version of this would not only greatly affect Speed Duels just to have it. I know it doesn't see a lot of play in Speed right now, but it's still one of those cards that, depending on the format, it could be really good. But I think in real Yu-Gi-Oh would benefit from having a foil version of this. And what I love about real Yu-Gi-Oh being able to play Speed Duels, right now Speed gets a lot of flack from the regular Yu-Gi-Oh community, but when you bridge the gap by giving real Yu-Gi-Oh foils exclusives that are only exclusive to Speed Duels, it allows people to, you know, kind of like venture over. Now I understand it's not going to be like, oh, Super Heatwave, man, I should play Speed Duels, but it bridges the gap more so than it would if you gave Heatwave a foil version in, say, regular Yu-Gi-Oh but didn't give it to Speed. Like, Speed at least can benefit from, sometimes it plays this card. Regular Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't really play this card right now, but depending on the format, it might. And having a foil version that's exclusive to Speed Duels kind of at least gets people to at least glance over at Speed Duels and be like, oh, well, let's see what other foil versions of cards they have over there, or reprints of something. Like Thousand Eyes Restrict just got a reprint for us as a common. This common was previously like a $4 common in regular Yu-Gi-Oh, so we pushed it down to about $2, but it's still a solid $2 common that people can get their hands on. So again, it gets people glancing over, you know, and that's always good for the game. The last spell I have in my super rare slots is my favorite spell card, Offerings to the Doomed. This is a quick play spell that says target one face-up monster on the field, destroy that target, also skip your next draw phase. When this got announced for Speed Duels, I was kind of surprised. I expected the first destruction thing to be Sakuretsu armor, but I feel like this is just better in every single way. I mean, except for the fact that you lose your draw phase, but the applications are so much higher than Sakuretsu ever could promote itself to be. So let's go over the facts. Quick play spell card, meaning you can activate it both on your opponent's turn and on your turn. You can activate it during your battle phase from your hand, which is always fun in Speed Duels because you don't have a main phase too, so a lot of people don't expect you to play something like that. Destroy any face-up monster in the field allows you to destroy your cards as well, so if your opponent sticks Lava Golem on your field, you can get rid of it with this. Let's say you want to blow through your opponent in one turn with something, I don't know, let's just say Blue Eyes White Dragon, for example, and you have the Onslaught, but your opponent has that Amazoness Swordswoman that you need to get rid of or else you lose the game. Just blow it up with this and swing for game, no problem. Get rid of Zoma The Spirit, which counts as a monster when it's a trap card. Get rid of, get rid of anything. Get rid of the Command Knight lock, get rid of the Gentlemander lock, get rid of any option almost except for things that don't let you target them or destroy them for that matter. Also, if your opponent puts Parasite Paranoid on your monster and is, thinking probably going to go into that Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth combo, get rid of your monster. You skip your draw phase, but they lose the ability to summon a 3500 beat stick that could potentially swing in the game for you. Oh, Tyrant Dragon says you can't target it with trap cards? Hey, guess what? This is a spell card. It works out really well. Hey, your opponent's playing Trap Jammer or ways to stop traps. For example, we're getting Jinzo for some unbegone known reason in the Speed Duel box. Guess what? This outs Jinzo. This card is going to be strong for days to come, unless, of course, they overshadow it out of the Speed Duel box. This card definitely deserves a foil rare reprint, in my opinion. I understand I'm a bit biased towards this card because I think this card is fantastic, even though there are two cards from the decks that are, or maybe three if you want to count Charging Gaia, that are clearly better than this card from the decks, but I would still arguably tell you this is the best thing out of the decks, aside from Zoma The Spirit. So that's just my opinion, but case in point, card's real good. Now to the traps. The first one I have on here is Wild Tornado. This is a normal trap that says target one face-up card in the spell and trap zone. Destroy that face-up card, then its controller can set one spell trap from their hand. If this set card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, target one face-up card on the field, destroy that target. This card has a multitude of applications. First and foremost, just destroying a face-up spell or trap card is always pretty good. It's really good right now against Zoma and Nightmare Wheel especially. But having the extra effect of while this thing is destroyed, you can target a card, face-up card on the field, any card, and destroy that target, allows you to kind of like mess around with your plays. This is really good with Double Cyclone. You can pop this and to pop a spell and trap your opponent controls, and then this can pop a face-up card on the field. Also, it's really good as a bluff. If your opponent feels the need to get rid of your spell and trap cards in any way possible, this then gets rid of one of their face-up cards when they destroy it. So it's kind of like Waking the Dragon in that sense. But this card sees play in and out of every Speed Duel format so far, mostly to do with continuous things. It can destroy things equipped with Relinquished or Dark Necrofear, if Dark Necrofear is equipped to a monster. Blast Sphere, a lot of things. Parasite Paranoid, card's real good, has a lot of applications, has a lot of uses. I feel at this point it deserves the foil because it's been played so often already, and it'll probably continue to see play for the foreseeable future. So definitely why I think this should be a super rare in this set for sure. The next one I feel is obvious. It is Nightmare Wheel, continuous trap card. Target one monster your opponent controls, not even face up, which is crazy. It cannot attack or change its battle positions. When it leaves the field, destroy this card. During each of your standby phases, while that monster is on the field, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. So, literally just better Spellbinding Circle. Also, they can't change battle position, so if it's face down and they want to flip it face up, too bad they can't. But either way, if it's face up in attack position, they can't put it in defense mode or vice versa. And then the 500 every turn is solid. Now, I know Twisted Personality makes this card even better than it already is, because you can target something, let's say on their draw phase, do 500, put a counter on your personality, and get your skill up to 2 or 3 skill counters, depending on where you want to use it in the turn. But just simply, it prevents them from attacking, which is already solid. It does the 500 every turn, which in regular Yu-Gi-Oh terms is essentially 1,000 every turn, because this is 4,000 Yu-Gi-Oh instead of 8, which is kind of crazy. You can get up there really quickly. When you pair this with something like Zoma the Spirit or Lava Golem or any other burn card, Blast Sphere, this gets real good real quick. The 500 becomes very lethal. And then the battle position that can't be changed, like, that's just solid. Like, depending on where you're at, like, if you have a monster with piercing or something, you have that extra option as well. This card is dumb, to say the least. This card is dumb in Speed Duels. Definitely deserves a foil printing for sure. Well, this and definitely the next trap that is on the list that I'm sure comes to nobody's surprise, which is none other than Zoma The Spirit. This card is a continuous trap that says special summon this card in defense position as an effect monster, zombie, dark, level 4, 1800 attack, 500 defense. This card is also a trap, meaning you can still destroy it with spell and trap destruction things. If this card is summoned this way and is destroyed by battle, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attack of the monster that destroyed it. Holy crap, do we have a lot to uncover with this. 500 defense, it gets summoned to defense. Well, that's fine and dandy, but like, kinda at that point baits you to attack it. Otherwise, it's an 1800 beat stick, which in Speed Duels is still pretty high. If they kill it, they take their monster's attack. Let's just say Blue Eyes kills it, well, they're taking 3,000 to the face. That's really strong, especially with 4,000 Yu-Gi-Oh! That's 3/4 of the way through the duel. Another thing, it's a trap monster. So you have the extra benefit of not having to waste like a normal summon on this, using it on your opponent's end phase, summons in defense mode, putting it into attack mode on your turn, summoning some other beat stick aside it, and swinging for more damage. This card runs the game right now in Speed Duels. It's just that powerful. I'd love to tell you Offerings to the Doomed or Nightmare Wheel are the best two cards from the decks, but this is clearly the best card from the decks. So many applications. It's a trap monster, so you can tribute it, which is crazy if you need another tribute summon for something. If you want to summon, like, I don't know, Gap the Divine Soldier or Jinzo from the Future set. Although that's, you know, debatable because Jinzo negates traps, so maybe you're not going to want to play so many traps. Whatever. We're not talking about that right now. The point of Zoma the Spirit is pretty ridiculous. This card has so many applications. I feel like I could just go on for days about this, but I don't want to continue doing that to you guys. I want to get into my ultra rares. If you don't understand the full magnitude of this card, go play a Speed Duel or two with it or against it, and you'll see what I'm saying. Alright, so on to the ultra rares. There are 6 ultra rares when it comes to these Speed Duel tournament packs. These are again my predictions, and here we go. So the first one I have is Black Lustrous Soldier, the Ritual Monster. Now, this is a little tough for me. Like I said, they usually do character cards for the ultras. So in my opinion, I wouldn't use this as an ultra rare, but survey says otherwise. You know, history has told us that they're going to do character things. Now, it was between this and Gaia the Dragon Champion. The reason I didn't take Gaia, we already have a Gaia in this set, and Black Lustrous Soldier is usually revered as the ultimate iconic Yugi monster that's not Dark Magician. This is the same stats as Blue Eyes White Dragon, and in the future I'm sure we'll get Dragon Master Knight, which is a fusion of both this and Blue Eyes White Dragon, and Blue Eyes already has an ultra rare, so I really think that this will get that. I get that Gaia has Knight of Legend, but again, we have Charging Gaia in this set already. I think if they're going to go any Yugi card, it's going to be this. Yeah, it has no effect, but it's a 3000 beat stick, and it's a ritual monster, and it's an iconic Yugi card. So, do I agree with it? No, but do I see Konami going with this? Yes. So that is my first ultra rare. The second one has an effect, and that is Dark Necrofear. This is a Bakura card, so I expect this to get it. This is, it wasn't a foil in the decks. I actually expected it to be, but I expected another one that's on this list later on to be an ultra from the, the decks too, and it wasn't. So this is a level 8 Dark Fiend effect, 2200 attack, 2800 defense, cannot be normal summoned or set. Must first be special summoned from your hand by banishing 3 Fiend monsters from your graveyard during the end phase. If this card is in your grave because it was destroyed in your monster zone by an opponent's card and was sent there this turn, target one face-up monster your opponent controls, equip this card to that target. While this card is equipped to a monster by this effect, take control of that monster. Bakura, as you know, got a deck in the most recent starter decks, and this is his boss monster, so there's no reason this won't be an ultra rare. It's also a free summon in any Fiend deck. You banish 3 Fiends, you summon it, and if it's, in the graveyard and was sent there, you can take control of an opponent's monster, which is pretty strong. So I don't think this doesn't deserve it. I think there are other cards more willing to deserve it again, but like I said, going off the character aspect, this is definitely going to be an ultra rare for sure, and that's why it's number 2 on this list. So BLS to me kind of fills the void of like Fortress Whale, where it has no effect, but it's a ritual monster, and it's iconic. The next one fills the void to me of like Serpent Night Dragon, and that is Karushin, or Karushin, or Kairushin, or I don't really know how to pronounce it, but this is the first printing it ever had, which was in Speed Duels as a common. Let me preface, in English, first printing in English, not first printing ever. And it got a skill based around it, Terror from the Deep, and that card's really good with this, so why not give this an ultra rare printing? And it's a Mako card, so you know, Fortress Whale was Mako's last card in the ultra slot. Now we get this thing, and you know, unlike Fortress Whale, it doesn't have a skill wrapped around it. This card does, and this card, with its skill, is pretty powerful. You get to always play the Yumi, which is pretty awesome. But also, if it leaves the field, you draw 2 cards, which is pretty strong as well. And your water monsters aren't affected by traps, which is really, really good. So I would give this the ultra rare slot. I get that it's like the dark horse of the ultra rares, but they did it to Serpent Night Dragon, so I don't see a reason they won't do it to something like Karushin or it's A-I-R, so it's Karushin? I give up, guys. I give up on this. The next one's much easier to pronounce, and that one is Lava Golem, level 8, Fire, Fiend, 3000 attack, 2500 defense. Cannot be normal summoned. Set must first be special summoned from your hand to your opponent's field by attributing 2 monsters they control. You cannot normal summon Set this turn, you special summon this card. Once per turn during your standby phase, take 1000 damage. Keep in mind that effect is relevant when it's on the field. So if it's in your opponent's control, they're the ones that take the 1000. But let's get over the basics of this card. You can't normal summon or set the turn you special summon this to your opponent's field. It's a bit of a downside, but you're playing it in a burn deck most likely. Usually doesn't matter, and it's a double tribute kaiju. For those that play regular Yu-Gi-Oh! That know what that means. Basically, just gets rid of opponent's monsters by tributing them and summoning this to their field. It's 3000 attack, but if you play Zoma The Spirit and Nightmare Wheel, you're set regardless because your opponent either has to swing into the Zoma and take 3000, or doesn't get to attack at all and just is stuck on this card equipped with Nightmare Wheel. Card's real strong. I feel like Santa Claus is really, really good in Speed Duels, but Lava Golem serves way more purposes, so therefore Lava Golem gets the okay. Plus, it's a Merrick card, so of course, as in theme with the Ultra Rares here, the character card being Lava Golem, character being Merrick, makes total sense. I was a little surprised. This was the other one that came out of the deck, so I was surprised wasn't an Ultra Rare from the get-go, but that's why it serves the Ultra Rare spot into this pack instead. So that's definitely deserving of the Ultra Rare spot. Another card that deserves the Ultra Rare spot is Thousand Eyes Restrict. This card is seen play in many a time, definitely in regular Yu-Gi-Oh! And now in Speed Duels. Much less in Speed Duels, but you can cheat ease this out with Thousand Eyes Spell, the skill. Let's go over this card. It's a Dark level 1 Spellcaster Fusion effect, 0 attack and defense. Other monsters on the field cannot change the battle positions or attack. That's already really good. Once per turn, you can target a monster your opponent controls, equip that target to this card, basically like Relinquish. You can only equip one monster to it at a time. Through that effect, this card's attack and defense become equal to the equipped monsters. If this card would be destroyed by battle, you can destroy the equipped monster instead. So it's Relinquish, but it's more powerful. It has the extra effect of nothing can attack or change the battle position except this thing. Card's real strong. Card's real good in regular Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now. But to keep on theme, like I said, once again, this is a Pegasus card, so this is a character card, definitely deserves an ultra rare printing, and as an ultra rare printing, once again, regular Yu-Gi-Oh! Does benefit from this, because the last time this card was an ultra was the original, from Pharaoh's Servant, if I remember correctly, also from Dark Beginnings 1, and Retro Pack 2. So yes, it's had its fair share of ultra printings, but it's never had an ultra rare printing with problem-solving card text, which I know Konami is huge on reprinting stuff in that fashion, as it should, because for new players and players alike, you always want to get the rulings correct. There has been no foil printing of this card with problem-solving text, if memory serves. Yes, I think the last foil version, if it's not ultra, was Secret from Masters Collection and Super from Duelist League promos. Yeah, so it's never had a foil printing with problem-solving card text. But like I said, again, it deserves the character slot here. It definitely, as an Ultra, would be really nice. And for GOAT players, Ultra Rare in the new, more formatted version of the card, plus the problem-solving text, that's really good. I think that'd be really cool for GOAT players as well, and collectors alike. So I definitely think this deserves and will get one of the Ultra slots in this pack. And last but not least, I know my first 5 were character-based, and I'm sure the 6th one will be character-based, and I'll be incorrect about this, but this is more of a wish list slash I think this card deserves it, and I think this serves regular Yu-Gi-Oh! Way more than it currently deserves in Speed Duels, but over time it'll probably be really good in Speed Duels, and that is Allure of Darkness. This card was last Ultra Rare in the original printing in Phantom Darkness, and I don't think this would overshadow it because Allure of Darkness in Phantom Darkness also comes Ultimate, so that's still going to be the best rarity of this card, but giving it Ultra Rare with problem-solving card text and Speed Duels nonetheless, in my opinion, that sounds like a lot of good things mixed together. This card definitely shouldn't be a super rare. There are so many super rare Allure of Darknesses. There's the Raging Blast, there's the Dark Saviors, there's the Destiny Soldiers, and don't get me started on the amount of commons Allure of Darkness has. The only other rarities is the Ultra from Phantom Darkness and the Ulti from Phantom Darkness, and I think this card's well overdue for a higher rarity than that. Sure, I could see it in Battles of Legend Armageddon as a secret, but regular Yu-Gi-Oh! Aside, Speed Duels definitely deserves to make this a foil at some point. I get right now it's not relevant. I mean, you can play it in Dark Moth, and there have been builds with it, but I think it'll be more competitive later on down the line in Speed when more single cards do more things. But don't give it a super rare. If you throw it into the super rare slot, that's just demoting it more than it's already deserved. It has so many super rare printings. Give it an ultra rare. This would be the perfect spot for it. Not only would it be an ultra rare that would be hard to get, but it would be sought out by regular players, and once again would bridge gaps, and players would look at it once again and be like, well, Speed Duels has it. Let's look at what else Speed Duels has. It gets people in the doorway. So give this an ultra rare. This card's overdue. It definitely deserves that print. And guys, that is my list of potential supers and ultras in Speed Duel Pack Tournament 3. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on what both the supers and the ultra rares are. And even if they don't follow the character sheet like they have in the last two, what do you guys think should be the ultra rares in this set? Because let me tell you, if I didn't think it had to be character based to be a completely different set, maybe Thousand Eyes Restrict would stay, but the rest, well, I guess Lava Golem too, but the rest probably not so much. But anyways, with that in mind, please comment, like, and subscribe if you found this video interesting, helpful, or whatever you like about it. Please click that notification bell to get all of the latest updates. But guys, this has been a really long video, and I'm really sorry about that. But I really like giving you guys my opinions about everything in depth, so hopefully you can forgive me. Alright guys, I'm out.